Now that we have the TagsCollector service running in the background, the only thing remaining is to develop the web-based user interface. The included ASP.NET templates are designed to get anyone with basic web development experience up and going quickly with essentially no coding required. Inside this template package, there is a master page with a place for your company logo, a project header section, a site navigation menu, and integrated user access controls. There are also several content pages that don't require any customizing at all. These include an alarm manager page for viewing and acknowledging alarms, an alarm report page for viewing the alarm history, a page for viewing the user activity history, a graphing page for analyzing trend data, an event scheduler for triggering events based on the time and date, an easy-to-use recipe manager, and a page for managing user accounts. And lastly, there are some sample content pages that can be quickly copied and modified to generate an unlimited number of custom pages. In this demo, we will be copying and modifying the sample read-write form to create our first custom content page. For developing the user interface, UI for short, you will need to have Microsoft's Visual Studio and some type of software for creating and editing your background images. My demo system has everything installed on the same server, however, oftentimes it's more convenient to install the development tools on a separate workstation, especially if you're going to be managing multiple systems remotely. To begin customizing the UI, you may want to start by adding your company's logo and a project header image. If you open the template file and locate the image folder, you will find a file named logomaster.svg. Replace this file using your own company's logo with dimensions of 200 pixels wide by 66 pixels high and formatted as a scalable vector graphic or SVG. I'm going to quickly create a logo for a company named ABC Inc. By saving as SVG, even low-resolution images will be rendered sharply with no jagged edges. However, if your graphics editing software doesn't support SVG, you can also save these as JPEGs, although you would need to modify the ASP code in the master page to accommodate this change. Next, I will create a file named headermaster.svg with an image that is 1024 pixels wide by 66 pixels high. And I'll call this the River Road Facility, and again export as SVG. For developing custom background images, you can use whatever software you're most comfortable working with. My personal preference is to start with AutoCAD drawings, export them to PDF, and then dress them up using Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo, like this rotary machine that I'll be using later in the video. The backgrounds for content pages need to be 1055 pixels wide by 750 pixels high. Well, that should take care of all the graphics. So now let's locate the TagsCollector UI template folder, double-click on the solution file, and provided that Visual Studio is properly installed, the project should open. Our first order of business is to look in the Solution Explorer, locate the rootpath.txt file, and double-click. Setting this one file path is the only thing required for configuring the connection between the user interface and the background service. Therefore, this file path needs to match what we configured in the TagsCollector Management Console back in Part 2. By default, the location is a folder called My Tag Database on the system's C drive. Now let's construct our first content page. To do this, look in the Solution Explorer and find the Sample Read-Write page. If we expand this page, we'll see that it actually contains three separate files. The primary file is the ASPX markup file that creates the HTML web page. The second file is the ASPX.cs file, which contains the C# code behind for updating the data labels and handling the communications between the server and the client. And the third file is the ASPX.designer.cs file that is automatically generated by Visual Studio for linking the other two files. If you're new to Visual Studio, don't be intimidated. For developing content pages, most of the work is already done and only requires a few quick modifications. However, since we don't want to modify our original sample file, we're going to first make a copy of this file and then modify the copy. To do this, right-click and select Copy. Then go up to the TagsCollector UI folder, right-click and select Paste. Now move back down and find a page called Sample Read Write Copy that you just created, expand the folder, click on the primary page and give it a new name. To keep things simple, it's best to not use dashes or spaces in your file names. I'll call mine Rotary Machine 1. Notice that the two associated pages are also automatically renamed. Now double-click the ASPX page and look on line 1 of the code and set the inherits property for the page. To avoid a possible typo, I will copy my page name from here and paste it to here. Next, double-click on Rotary Machine 1 ASPX.cs file and scroll down to where the public partial class is set. Notice that these variables are underlined in red, which tells me that there's a problem with the code. If I move my cursor over one of these variables, it will tell me that the sample read-write class already contains this variable. And the reason for this is because this copied class is still named sample read-write. However, if I rename this to Rotary Machine 1, we should see all the red go away. Now, let's change the page name to Rotary Machine 1, and here spaces and dashes are acceptable, and that's all we need to change in the code behind. So let's close this page and click to save our changes. I will now go back to my primary ASPX file and finish the customization. At the bottom of this page, there is an option to view the page as either source code, in Graphics Design View, or in Split View. The sample content page that we are currently working on is made up of a static background graphic with dynamic tags placed over the top of the image. The golden colored tags are labels for read-only data coming from the TagsCollector service. The gray colored tags are buttons that both read data in and send commands back to the service. Both the text and the colors are ultimately controlled by TagsCollector, but the default values will be displayed anytime the tag can't connect to the service, so it's best to set these to something that users will quickly identify as being an error. For those of you that are new to Visual Studio, notice that if I click on an object in the design window, it automatically selects the associated code. Or if I select a line in the code, it automatically selects the corresponding object in the design view. Additionally, most of the objects on a page will have associated properties, and if we select to view the property window, you can see the object properties listed there as well. You can normally work in whatever window is most comfortable, and if you edit the data in any one of these three areas, then Visual Studio will automatically apply your changes to the other two. The first change I will make is to replace the sample air compressor image with my rotary machine image. Notice here that Visual Studio is prompting me to refresh the page, and when I do, the background image is updated. I'm now going to switch over to the design view for customizing my tags. You can see here that I now have the new background image, but we still have our old labels over top of it. A lot of this stuff I'm just going to blow out and clean up the screen a bit. Get rid of that. Pump 1, I'm going to drag it up here to my parts bowl and rename it to bowl 1 in the property section and set the color to black so it stands out a little more. I'm going to reuse our sample table, so I'll grab the handle and drag that up here. And now let's look at how we go about connecting the labels to the actual data. As you can see here, I've already added my rotary machine to my TagsCollector database. This particular data is being collected over Modbus from I think a Productivity 2000 PLC, but the data source is completely irrelevant. The only information needed to link the tag to the graphic is the group name and the tag description. I'm now going to drag this window over to my other monitor so I can use it as a reference while I add the tags to the graphic. I'll now grab one of my old sample tags, drag it up here to my parts bowl, go down to the properties and locate the tooltip property and replace our old compressor supply pressure text with our new group name of Rotary 1, followed by a single space and the tilde symbol located on the upper left of your keyboard, followed by another space, and then the tag description, Part Bowl 1. This tooltip text is the only information required for linking the label to the data. If you've ever worked with other SCADA systems, you've probably built pages and later discovered that you had entered multiple tags with the same incorrect tooltip text. With TagsCollector, you can't make this mistake. If the tooltip text is wrong, the tag doesn't work. Okay, that's everything for the first tag. Now let's do something with these. I'm going to delete this. These are buttons that I will address in a minute, but I'm first going to do something with this table. And for editing that, I prefer to work in the code behind. I normally work on a bigger monitor, so I need to make this a little smaller. Hopefully you can still read that. I'm now going to delete the third column from each row. And we probably don't need column descriptors, so I'll just remove the entire top row. And now switch back to the design view. Make a quick adjustment to the column width and replace my row descriptors. I'll call this operator. This will be my consecutive bad parts limit. This will be the enable/disable command. And these tags, I'm just going to blow them out. Now let's go back to the two buttons that will be used to send operator commands to the PLC. And although these two buttons look the same, they're actually a little different. This one was previously the compressor supply pressure set point for adjusting an analog value, and this one was previously the compressor start/stop tag for commanding a digital value. And if we want to see the difference between the two, we will need to look at the code behind. Here we can see that each of these buttons contains an onClick event to tell the server what action to take when the button is clicked. Any button that's controlling an analog value will need to call the analog set click event, and any button that's controlling a digital value will need to call the digital set click event. It's not complicated, but this is something you need to be aware of when adding buttons. To make this look a little better, I'm now going to set both of these to 70 pixels wide, modify my old analog button and link that to my rotary 1 consecutive bad parts tag, and modify my old digital button and link that to my rotary 1 enable/disable tag. And again, the only action needed to link these to the background service is to enter the tag's group name and descriptor inside the button's tooltip property. Next, I'll cut these buttons off my desktop and paste them into my table. And these are not showing up in the table because in the source code they are still set for absolute position, which is no longer needed in the table. So let's remove that. I'll now go back to the design view and presto, now they're in the table. Next, I will copy the static tag and drop that into the table, and again remove the absolute positioning, adjust the width to match the buttons, and change the tooltip text to operator. As a side note, when copying labels inside of Visual Studio, you need to first select the tag you want to copy, press Ctrl+C, and then click on the desktop to deselect that tag before pressing Ctrl+V. Otherwise, Visual Studio will try to paste your new label inside of the existing one. If you're new to Visual Studio, this can take a little getting used to. I will now use the same cut and paste procedure to add the remaining tags to my graphic. Okay, I've now finished adding the tags to my web page, but before I can test it, I will now need to add the new web page to my site navigation menu. To do this, look in the Solution Explorer and locate the files called Web Sitemap and Web 101 Sitemap. Each of these files produces a different navigation menu, with the Web Sitemap displayed to general users and the Web 101 Sitemap displayed to only users that are logged in as administrators. If we compare these two files, we will see that they are almost identical, except the Web 101 file currently has an extra menu item to allow admins access to the user's account page. I will want both users and admins to have access to my new rotary machines, so I will need to add them to both sitemaps. To do that, I'll copy the nodes on the sample page and paste them here. And now just modify these nodes to reflect the request of my new page. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and add a second rotary machine to my navigation menu. And now copy all of this, go over to my admin navigation page, and paste it here as well. To test my changes, I'm now going to click the Run button, and Visual Studio will display the website on my selected web browser. I will log in under the default admin account, and as you can see, the site now contains our ABC Inc. logo, the River Road Facility header, and the site navigation menu contains links to our newly added rotary machines. If I select Rotary 1, I will see the page I just created, and since I'm doing my development on my SCADA server, these tags are currently showing active data from the TagsCollector service. If I want to see what tag my label is connected to, I just place my pointer over the label to show me the tooltip text. If I click on my consecutive bad parts label, the analog command window opens and I can enter a new value for my limit. If I click on the Enable Disable button, the digital command window is open and I can now enable or disable my machine. If I select Rotary 2, the page doesn't exist. But as a quick recap to what we've learned, let's close the browser and I'll show you just how quick I can add a second machine. Right-click on Rotary Machine 1 and select Copy. Then go up to the TagsCollector UI folder, right-click and select Paste. Now move back down and find the page called Rotary Machine 1 Copy that we just created, expand the folder, click on the primary page and rename it Machine 2. Now look at line 1 in the ASPX code and change the name in the adherence property to Machine 2. Next, double-click on Rotary Machine 2 ASPX.cs file and scroll down to where the public partial class is set. Rename this to Rotary Machine 2 and change the page name to Rotary Machine 2. Now go back to the ASPX page. We will keep the same background image, but I will search for all tags with Rotary 1 and replace them with Rotary 2. I can now press the Run button, log in, and see that both Rotary pages are now fully functional. Assuming that my site is now complete, the only remaining item is to publish our new website to the IIS server. To publish the site, all I need to do is select the Build drop-down from the top menu and then click on Publish TagsCollector UI. Select a target location for the project and click the Publish button. Once the site is published, navigate to the Publishing folder, copy the entire contents of the folder, and paste them into the IIS TagsCollector folder that we created back in Section 4. This completes the QuickStart series of development videos. The information presented during this series is intended to provide you with the basic knowledge needed to develop a TagsCollector SCADA system. For more detailed information on specific topics, please refer to the online help documentation or contact Torona's technical support for additional assistance. Thank you for watching.